Hello everyone, welcome to another evening of frank conversation on hard copy, coming to you from our studios in Abuja. I am Terry Ikumi. Now, for anyone who's been following the headlines in the last 2 weeks, news of hearings by members of the National Assembly into the affairs of the Niger Delta Development Commission, NDDC, might have been of some interest. Interestingly, there are two separate committees, one constituted by the Senate and then the NDDC Committee of the House, to ask questions on probable malfeasance in the interventionist agency, which was created to, among other things, facilitate the rapid, even and sustainable development of the Niger Delta. Today, despite the trillions of naira allocated to the NDDC since inception, there is very little to show. Instead, as the sordid details from the hearings have shown, the agency seems to have become an instrument of patronage and rent for the politically connected in the Niger Delta and around the country, resulting in calls from some quarters for its scrapping. Nonetheless, whether one agrees with such a call or not, it certainly does border on the mind as to why the NDDC has underwhelmingly performed on such an important assignment as taking care of the goose that lays the golden egg. This is a question we seek to find answers to tonight, and our guest is Honorable Ben Ibakba, a member of the House of Representatives who represents Ethiopia East and West in Delta State. He is currently a member of the NDDC Committee of the House of Representatives, probing the activities of the Interim Management Committee of NDDC in the last 1 year. Honorable, welcome to Hard Copy.
Thank you for having me.
Let me just start by getting this out the way. When the Minister of Niger Delta Affairs laid his accusations against members of the National Assembly as greatest beneficiaries of the NDDC contracts, it was quite clear that he was being hushed. In fact, a member of the committee, Boma Goodhead, was being hushed by the chairman. So let's get this out the way. As a member of that committee and as somebody from that region, did you get any contracts from the NDDC?
Well, to answer you in a clear terms, no. Because the budget of NDDC of 2019 was passed in March 2020, and it was supposed to lapse by 31st of May. So we did it for them because of the fact that they spent some money and there must be an appropriation to cater for what they have spent.
The committee also passed a vote of confidence on the chairman, Honorable Tunji Ojo, at the time. I'm very curious to find out what information did you have or what evidence did you have before you before accepting that he was innocent of all the accusations against him?
First, Honorable Bumi Ojo is somebody who has been working, he's been a consultant in the National Assembly for some time. He understands the rudiments, he understands government, and the accusation has been on for quite some time, and he has been to several television stations, newspaper, to challenge the IMC to come out with their fact. And for over 6 months, there's no fact. It shows that there's really nothing. The other day they presented a file before the committee. We've looked at the file. It's just a bundle of newspapers, which nobody can actually. So if he cannot, he who alleges must prove. So they cannot prove it. We took that decision.
All right, so the Senate has
and you remember, Chief Akpabio himself confirmed it there during the sitting, during the hearing, that the chairman was not given any contract, that the contract they refers to is to his state. So that automatically exonerates the chairman.
Very well, then let's go to the report of the Senate now. The Senate came out with its own result of its probe, even though the House of Representatives did come out with it, but it has not been adopted yet. We'll go into the details because we had the privilege of seeing that document, even though it is not.
How did you get it?
It's on the order paper.
But it's just that to receive the report. So there's no report.
That's exactly what I'm saying. It's on the order paper. So it's the report of the committee. It has not been adopted by the House yet. So we can't say that.
And the details too, you don't know.
But those are the details that are provided by the committee. But let me go to the Senate now. The Senate has revealed its own findings. Yeah. And I can't help but observe that the Senate did mention a huge figure, about 1.3 trillion. Now, apart from the fact that that's not mentioned in the report of the Committee of the House of Representatives, there is a huge disparity in the recommendations of both committees, which raises the question, should the National Assembly have set up a single committee to look into this?
Well, that will have been possible, because if you look at the budget defense, they come together as one to do it. But now that the Senate has their committee, we have our own committee, there's nothing wrong at the end of the day to harmonize and possibly transmit the harmonized version to the president.
So what you're saying now is that the report passed by the Senate is what the House of Reps is probably going to harmonize.
No, definitely not the same, because we're working on our own. We will definitely come out with our own position. It could be the same, but you can't rule out the possibility of a little difference.
I'm also curious as to why the House of Reps had to defer its passage, its adoption of that report until 8 weeks. 8 weeks is quite, it's quite a long time to wait. Don't you think?
We are full-time legislators. The Speaker, the leadership of the House of Reps can call up tomorrow for us to come, and wherever we are, we have to come back. It's national assignment. So we might not wait for 8 weeks, but the truth is that the committee is quite, the report is quite bulky, and members need to look at it. Everybody needs to understand, look at it, look at the facts and the figures, and agree, so that when it comes to the adoption, it will be easy to.
All right, so for the constitution of that committee, I think one thing that many people question is the Senate did what was expected of them by setting up a committee, an ad hoc committee separate from its NDDC committee, basically because of the accusations against the chairman of the NDDC committee. But the House of Reps, on its part, insisted that the NDDC committee should sit over this matter.
Well, that is the beauty of democracy. We have a bicameral legislation, so the decision of one house might necessarily not be. You see, there are times when the issues of national budget appropriation come, and one has one figure, the other has a figure.
No, my point is beyond the bicameral nature of the National Assembly. It's more about you sitting in your own case.
But at the end of the day, the chairman recused himself, and that is integrity as far as I'm concerned. He recused himself because he didn't want to continue to sit, and the people coming to say, oh, there's something you're hiding, or you will not get justice. But I believe the essence of inviting them is actually to hear them out, because if you are granted fair hearing, like it is said, most time, when you're given the opportunity to speak, it is good, because that is fair hearing. They want to hear you. You submitted some document, but we want you to just come, speak to the document, then we can ask questions based on our own observation. And that is what we did.
Anyone who's followed this Niger Delta probe would almost say, I'm not surprised. I don't know if it came to you as a surprise, basically because you're from the Niger Delta region, so I'm sure you see the happenings in that area. Were you surprised at the kind of revelations that came out of this probe? I
am not surprised. I am not surprised, because over the years, funds are being allocated, and the lifestyle of some persons who happen to serve under the NDDC, overnight they turn to superstar, and it's been happening right from Umpadek. That has been the situation, but thank God we started looking at it. Nigerians can now look at it, Niger Deltans can now look at it. From time to time, I think it's time to hold people accountable.
But how did we get to this point? There are two committees in the National Assembly that oversight the NDDC. So how did it get to this point where we now have to look all the way back to the inception of the NDDC to observe all these anomalies? Why was proper oversight not carried out all through these years?
Sorry, I must agree. I will not support the fact that the previous committees and previous assemblies has done well in terms of oversight on the NDDC. It's something that ought to be done. Our work really is mostly post-mortem on most occasions, but we have people from the area, and unfortunately we have people who are knowledgeable in terms of these legislative activities from the area, who are part of the committees over the years, and I expected them to have looked into the activities earlier than this, because a lot has gone down the drain before this exposition. So I believe it's never too late. We have to start from where we just woke up, and this is our morning.
But I think it's quite worrisome to a lot of people how the responsibilities that were neglected by the committees, as you rightly agreed, have now suddenly become something to hold on to. Don't you agree? I mean, now we know that the National Assembly, whom we looked up to handle these investigations, and now the same people we're falling back to handle the same investigations that they should have curbed many years ago.
I agree with you.
So how is this going to be checked going forward? How can the National Assembly buy back the trust of the people of the Niger Delta to be sure that this particular probe will have an outcome that will change the face of the Niger Delta?
You know, normally you wouldn't blame the legislators, because They are not cashiers. They are not accountants. They don't sign their checks. They are not supposed to be opening their books. They are supposed to look at the budget, pass a budget, and see how the budget is being implemented. And it's unfortunate, really, that the budget, nobody has really looked into all this rot over the years. But now that we have seen it, I think it demands more attention. It should be now periodical. You can look at it, take time to go through it. It's easy. You have a project in state A. Send the people, the legislators from the state to go get other ones from other states to go, because if I am doing in my state, I am the one collecting all the projects and I don't want anybody to know or look at what I am doing, I can go that everything is fine. But when my colleague from another state go there to check, there should be that form of checks and balances, so that all these accusations and somebody not doing what they ought to do.
So you're suggesting that it should be a
cross monitoring structure in place.
Okay, let's go to the probe now. I observed that when Joy Nunez made her presentations, she made a series of accusations and allegations, and some of them were not raised when the committee met with the Minister of Niger Delta Affairs and the MD of acting MD, Professor Ponde. One of them is the accusation or allegation that she was compelled to change dollars, and she refused to do that. But she asked the committee to query why the dollars were changed when Professor Ponde immediately took over. That question did not come up during the hearing.
Yeah, some of the accusation of Madam Nunez, some of them are very personal. And we didn't
you think this one is personal?
Some are very personal. We didn't want to go into personal
issues.
I
mean, you think this one is personal?
The one of the dollars, we didn't want to go into it too, because we don't spend naira. We don't spend dollars in Nigeria. So if they had to do, now we're saying we are able to quantify what the naira equivalent of the dollar is, and we are discussing the naira.
Are you aware of the status of that dollar account now as we speak?
I am not aware.
Is the committee looking into it, or the committee totally dismiss that allegation?
No, we didn't dismiss it. There's another technical team. The truth is this: for issue of dollar,
at least we need to know how much we're talking about.
No, the issue of dollar changing to naira, you cannot spend dollar in Nigeria. So I don't see for me that's not an issue. For me, that is not an issue. It is the purpose for which the dollar has been changed to naira and what they use the naira equivalent to do. That matters.
Do you know if it has been changed to naira or not?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
So the committee is still going to look into that. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
There were some other worries you had. One of them was the extra budgetary spending of the NDDC.
Yes.
What exactly were the details you were expecting to find from
it? Before we invited the NDDC, we invited the Accountant General's office, we invited the Auditor General's office, we invited the Bureau for Public Procurement. And the representative of the DG came, and I personally questioned him on that, on the activities of the forensic auditors, the vehicle purchase, and one other one, COVID-19. Because it was obvious that they were not in the 2019 budget. And something happened, which Senator Akpabio brought. The clerk of the National Assembly erroneously sent a letter to NDDC telling them that the budget for 2020 has been passed instead of 2019 in March. That day, Senator Akpabio brought that letter. And that is why, I now ask him, because based on that, it means that whatever he did with the purchase of the vehicle, the procurement of the lead forensic auditor, and that of COVID-19, which he said, he agreed on several occasions that those are the three projects and programs he has supervised. Now, he took those things to the Federal Executive Council for approval. And that is what he's talking about. But the truth is that he misled them, because there was no 2020 budget. He now put that letter, attached that letter, possibly, to the Federal Executive Council to get that approval. And that is extra budgetary expenses. That is why I asked him that question, that looking at the process of procurement, knowing fully well that in the Public Procurement Act, every procurement must be appropriation backed. And this one does not have appropriation. Yet you got an approval. Can you agree that you misled the Federal Executive Council and you misled the Bureau for Public Procurement?
We'll talk about the possibilities of that, and some other details as far as the minister is concerned in your report when we come back. Let's take a quick break and we'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back to Hard Copy. We're still discussing the developments in the Niger Delta Development Commission with Honorable Ben Igbakba. He is a member of the House of Reps Committee on NDDC, who's also from the Niger Delta region. Honorable, you were talking about Senator Akpabio misleading the Federal Executive Council. I don't know how possible that is.
Well, at FEC, I was a commissioner. You supply your information, and based on your information, a project is approved. A project or a program is approved by FEC. But because there was no budget, I know that in 2000, as at March, when that budget was passed by the House and the Senate, there was no provision for COVID-19. And there are procedures for emergency purchase, especially as it has to do with COVID-19, which the BPP, actually, there are guidelines. And most of the purchases, what he bought, vehicles are not, they are not emergency purchases. You can, there's not emergency in procurement of vehicle. Then the lead audit, with the forensic audit, the lead forensic audit, which he said, those things are not there. So which budget did he use in doing them? There's nothing wrong. If it's an emergency, like the BPP told us, there's a difference between urgent procurement and emergency procurement. But in these ones, where did they fit in? And with which budget did you go to the Federal Executive Council? Because there was no budget.
Well, then, your recommendations did not contain any wrongdoing from the minister.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I'm telling you that there are no recommendations in your budget suggesting that the minister did any wrong. Did you not find him culpable in anything?
Well, our recommendation is still work in progress, and by the time we're fully done.
But did you find any wrongdoing on the part of
that
the
I will not tell you here, because that is still, for me, like,
I'm not asking for the details, but were there points where you found
yes,
the
I see him.
culpable?
It was overbearing in terms of supervision, and he authorized some extra budgetary expenses, which he was doing. He eventually turned to the procurement officer of the agency.
Did you find any wrongdoing on the part of Dr. Joy Nunez?
No, I didn't find anything.
Did you find any wrongdoing on the part of the MD, acting MD of the NDDC?
Yes, a lot.
Well, his recommendations are not contained in your report as well.
In
our report is quite clear, calling on the EFCC to carry out extra investigations. It was a lot of that was contained in your report.
Terry.
Yes.
Now, let us know our limits. We are legislators, and clear 3 functions given to us by the Constitution. 1 is to make laws, 2, representation, 3, oversight. And after oversight, which is what we have done with this probe, ours is to make our recommendations to the executive arm of government, who has to deal with it. It is not in our place to turn ourselves to policemen, to EFCC. What we have done, we have some details that definitely will forward to the EFCC or any of these anti-graft agencies to work on.
Honorable Igbakba, what are your expectations as far as this probe is concerned? How far do you think that this probe should go to at least turn the NDDC around for the benefit of the people of the Niger Delta region?
Yes, my expectation is for them, is for the executive arm of government, that the president, to direct the necessary agencies to look at it, and if anybody is found culpable, the person should pay for it, and in whatever sanction, then I think that should serve as a deterrent to other persons that will be appointed. And again, I think NDDC should not, the appointment into NDDC commission should not be done on political basis, because most time people are even appointed for state without the governors knowing about it. So the governors most times don't even understand what is happening in their state. That is why you see one project being done by the state government and the NDDC is doing the same project again. There should be that synergy. Let's forget about political divide and let everybody come together. Pick those people, pick the best hands that can handle the place.
So Dr. Joy Nunez's recommendation, one of our recommendations was that the NDDC should be handed back to the office of the Secretary to the government of the Federation.
I agree with her.
You agree with her?
Yes.
Because the Senate has also recommended that it should be handed back to the presidency for supervision. So what impact will that have?
Because looking at two sides, the office of the minister and office of, if you look the office of the minister, the funding in terms of appropriation of the office of the minister and that of the NDDC is heavier. And that can turn the minister into a procurement officer who directs what happened. But the office of the SGF, he has a lot to do. I agree, he has quite a lot to do. It's extra burden on him, but I think there will be more sanity.
Senator Akpabio, when he appeared before the committee, repeatedly talked about how the NDDC has a source of funding beyond the budgetary provisions. There's also the 13% derivative. Did the National Assembly, did the committee look into that as well?
Yes.
Did you look into how much money has been donated to the NDDC?
Yes.
The NDDC has received from the other source of funding?
They submitted
Did you get, what are the details of that?
I wouldn't know offhand.
Now there's a new call following the kind of revelations that we've seen from the NDDC. There's a new call from the National Assembly. The House of Representatives was raised by the minority leader on the floor on the last day of plenary. 100 billion naira mismanaged in the Northeast Development Commission. Raises the question, with this level of mismanagement in development commissions, let's not forget that there are other development commissions that are currently being considered. There are bills for the Southwest, Southeast, South-South. Do we still need these commissions if they are not fulfilling the basic responsibilities that they should be fulfilling?
Yes, we need them. We need them definitely. What we just need to do is to expand and increase our oversight function. Not just the National Assembly now, but the people that these commissions are meant to serve. Because if you say I am your brother and you know I collected a job and I did not execute the job and I have been paid and you cannot report me, then you are not doing your region any good. So that is one call I want to pass to our people in the Niger Delta region to come out and speak of projects that have been abandoned and you know that the person have been paid, so that people can be punished. When people are punished, I know it's difficult. Armed robbers are fired. They are sentenced to death, but they still rob. But by the time for the MD of NDDC, the video of him slump, whether pretense or real, will remain on the internet, for years to come. And so long as remain in the internet there, his children will grow up to see it and they will ask him questions. What happened? Why were you asked to the extent that you have to die if you are really dying? So these are things, these are common things. For me, the acting MD has paid his price. You
think he wasn't genuine?
I never believe it cannot be genuine. I respect life. Everybody was worried, but before, in less than 2 hours, he left the hospital. And I think he's just trying to evade it because they came with a plan. The plan was to come sit in front of Honorable Bumi Ojo and tell him we cannot talk before you because you are an interested party. But they came and they meant a different game. So the man came, the professor with a lot of brain came blank. He obviously had nothing to say. That is why he has to do that.
But the medical team of the National Assembly has been in touch. Have you been able to confirm whether he indeed has?
I never even bothered because I know it was not real.
So you don't have an update as to what the report of the medical team is?
The only thing, Mr. Speaker announced to us that he has left the hospital and we wish him well. I pray he was pretending because my spirit, my inner person didn't tell me that it was real.
Honorable, just before we let you go, you've spoken about what you think the National NDDC can do to be better. But how do we, because the truth is these other development commissions are coming up. What legal provisions can we have to check the spendings and how these other development commissions operate?
We have enough laws in Nigeria. It is the implementation that is actually the problem. We have the EFCC, we have the ICPC, we have the DSS, we have the police. For me, there are even too many. But if somebody is punished, if the people who owns this commission take ownership of the commission and blow the whistle that there's problem here. Don't allow the people to do so much before we call like what is happening in NDDC.
Honorable Ben Bakba, thank you so much for coming to speak with us on Hard Copy.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Well, that's all the time we have today. Thanks for watching. Send your feedback to the email address on your screen. You can also catch the podcast as always at channelstv.com/podcasts. I'm Terry Ikumi. Bye-bye.